yourself, and then
This meeting is being recorded.
There you go.
got it. Beautiful. Alrighty, so just go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay, my name is Kathy Doubledam, and I live in Abbotsford, BC.
Awesome.
Nope.
So your brother Ray is Métis, and he's like your family adopted him, or like fostered him, and he's when did he come to be a part of your family?
So Ray was born in 1970, and I was born in 1977. And Ray joined our family when he was 3 originally, and he came with he had a baby brother, and they both came to my parents' house for a couple of months, and then went back into the foster system. And then Ray ended up coming back up in the foster system, and my parents, because they knew him, requested to foster him again. And then that's when he was about 4 years old. And then he has been with my parents ever since. So that was 1974. And yeah, he's kind of lived with us ever since.
Yeah. So how old were you how old would he have been when you were born?
So he was 7 when I was born.
He's 7 years old? Yeah. As long as you've been alive, he's been your
I don't know any different. Yeah, Ray's always been a part of our family. Yeah.
How did he end up in the foster system?
Yeah, so he had a number of brothers and sisters, apparently, what we've been told. And one of his sisters was going to school they lived up northern Alberta, somewhere up there. And in the dead of winter, she was going to school in, little undershirts and shorts and kind of flip-flops, and just not dressed appropriately, didn't have lunches, didn't have meals. And so they started to get suspicious. And so they sent social services over to their house. And Ray and his younger brother, Clifford, and maybe others, I'm not sure, but I just know about those two, were there. And they were, Ray was in like a playpen with like a 3-day-old diaper and rotten milk and in a bottle, and there was no parents home. They were home alone. And then the baby Clifford was kind of just crying in his bed with, I don't even know if he had a diaper on, anyways, it just was really dirty and really unsafe. And what we were told is that the mom, that she was out. She was just out all the time and out drinking. And I think she probably was making money through prostitution and different kinds of things, and drugs, maybe. I'm not quite sure about that, but she was definitely not, they told us she was not equipped to be a mother. So they put her into the foster system. And then my parents ended up with Ray and Clifford at the time. I'm not sure where the sister went. And then just Ray after that.
Yeah, and when he first became part of your family, you didn't even know that he had fetal alcohol syndrome. How old was he when they figured that out?
It was around the time I was born. I think he was 6 or 7, and my parents were taking care of him, and they had no idea. It wasn't very common at that time. It wasn't as people were as aware of it as they are now. And so they went to take him for a checkup at the doctor. And the doctor spoke to my parents like they would have known, just speaking about this. At the time, it was fetal alcohol disorder. Now it's, or fetal alcohol syndrome, and now it's fetal alcohol spectrum disorder. But he was talking to them about it as if they would have known. And they said, "Oh, we have no idea." And so, it was, they had brought him into, then they started educating them about how to care for. But yeah, he was about 6 or 7, I think.
And he was pretty young when he became part of your family, but does he have any memories of his siblings or his family before?
He doesn't have very many. He doesn't really have memories, but he knows, like my parents maintained his last name. So my main name was Sorensen, but his is Vauchel. And so he has maintained his name. He knows his heritage. He knows that his mom was Cree and that his dad was French Canadian. And so he knows a piece of those details. As much as information as I think my parents got, they made sure he knew. But that's, he doesn't know any of his family, or he doesn't know much more than that. But what they told us, he definitely is aware of. Yeah.
Yeah. So they actually like kept his name and like informed him of his like identity and culture. Has he ever had any desire to like be a part of Métis culture or learn about his heritage?
Part of his disability, it's hard. He has a hard time expressing what he really wants, and he often can get stuck. And so he's never really expressed it too much. I don't know that he's really been asked too much. But he is very proud of his heritage. If you were to ask him, he would be very clear to tell you about it. He would talk about it. I'm sure he's told you about it.
Yes, he has.
Yeah. And so I at times have wondered, in my own awareness, as I've become more and more aware of our Indigenous just story within Canada, and just some things I was under the understanding of, realizing how wrong they were, and some of those things, I have started to have more conversations with him, and I think that he, I have no indication he is interested in getting to know his family. Like, he would see us as his family. But I definitely think that he would be curious about his culture. I think about probably some of the clothes that they wear, art, different things like that. I think he's definitely drawn to that sort of thing. But hasn't really, doesn't talk, that hasn't really expressed much about that, but I think he would if he had the opportunity, if someone had.
And like, obviously you guys are really close. All of your family is kind of pretty close with Ray. He's living with you guys up until a little while ago when he moved to, where is he now?
Ottawa. Yeah, he moved with my brother. Yeah.
And because when you guys moved up, and then your parents moved up with you guys, he moved up. You guys.
Yeah, he moved.
How would you describe Ray's, like, from what I've seen, Ray is very close to your parents. How would you describe his relationship with his mom and dad?
Yeah, super close. I would say him and my dad get along very well. My parents definitely see him as their own. They definitely don't, it doesn't feel like he's a them and this is us. And they take great care of him. And I think they've really enjoyed him as part of our family. He's brought a unique dynamic and a diversity to our family that we've grown so much in our understanding of just even neurodiversity, as well as just different ethnicities and growing in that. So it's been we've learned from him, and he's been a great connection in our family. So
and I know I've been around him since I was a baby, and with I wasn't aware that he was adopted until I was older. I obviously didn't understand the concept. Until I was quite a bit older, probably like 8 or so. Because I never even occurred to me, or like there's no difference at all. And I'd definitely say that he's one of the most incredible people I have met.
Yeah, he's pretty special.
Like, in the way that he is capable of, he's extremely intelligent. Like, his emotional intelligence is quite, I'd say, rich.
He's a pretty neat guy.
And so, of course, it would be like, so obviously he was adopted. He was put in the foster care system at the end of the 60s, early 70s. Which is kind of when there was the 60s scoop was happening,
really,
of Indigenous children. So of course it would be a feel knowing that, like, this is your family member. You could never imagine your kids without their Uncle Ray, or without your brother. But then also understanding that may have been a little bit of systematic government putting him with a white family.
Totally. Yeah, it's all super interesting. So in my own research, just in my own study over the last, couple of years, learning more and more about the 60s scoop, you think, it does, you learn so much about like, oh, but my understanding of what happened and maybe what actually did happen, right? Like it was such a time of that, and putting Indigenous children into white homes. And so, it is such a funny thing of we've, it has worked out great for us. It was a really great thing. And I'm thankful that this is some of the redemption of that, because I think that was such a dark time, and by no means is it redemption for it all. And that's not what I mean at all, but just for Ray's story. But yeah, it's been quite alarming, the awareness, right? When you realize what I was told as a child, and this is what we're doing. And, like there was just lots of people. So in our church, we had lots of families with Indigenous children that had been in their foster, it just, the way we were taught was, isn't such a good thing that we're doing to help these people. And that was our understanding. And now upon reflection, you're like, oh my goodness, that's not what was going on at all. And it's quite shocking. And it's a really interesting piece to reconcile in your own history, that I have to undo some of the bias I was taught, right, in being in that upbringing, for sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for sharing your experience with us, with me. I learned some stuff I didn't know about Ray and about your family. It was really interesting. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks.
Good stuff. You can kind of stop the recording. Good stuff.
Let's try. Oh.
Good job. Good job.